Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News. It is finally Friday, so happy Friday to everyone out there. And like it says in the title, this is Prayer with Friday, and we're going to have prayer with my grandmother today. She's going to be my first prayer with guest on this inaugural week for Unfiltered Vision News. And for those viewing and listening, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I know it's early, 7 a.m. So I hope that you are having a great day. Hopefully you're not stuck in traffic or, having one of those Fridays where you're like, yay, it's Friday. But then like everything just comes crashing in at the same time. Like, what is going on? I need peace in my life. So again, thank you so much for joining me this morning and listening in. So we're going to hit a few of the topics, or I want to say like breaking news topics. Some happened yesterday. I don't know if anyone has heard, but we have a new pope, and he has decided to call himself Leo the 16th. No, the 14th. Okay, there we go. I before V is 4, not 5 in Roman numerals, and the X is for 10. So he is our 14th pope, and his born name was Robert Prevost, and he is from Chicago. So he is actually the first American pope. A lot of people were actually thinking it might have was going to be the Italian to be the pope, since that would be more traditional and getting back to traditional things within the Catholic Church. But apparently they decided to go with Mr. Prevost, who will now be known as Leo the 14th. Very interesting choice of name. It's interesting because they actually get to choose what they want to be called. And we may just do part of, a show maybe next week just to further just understand the papacy, why it's important to the Catholic Church that they have a pope in place. Some of you listening, you may be Catholic, and so you may have more insight on that as opposed to myself. My dad is Catholic, but I didn't grow up Catholic, so there's a little bit of a difference there. So yeah, it's interesting. He comes with a little bit of controversy. Of course, unfortunately, there's been some harms within the Catholic Church, and some you may know of, some of you may not, but they're alleged that he possibly protected crimes. I'm not going to say they're not crimes. They are crimes in the real world. Everybody else goes to jail for certain things, but apparently if you do it and you're in the Catholic Church, you do not go to jail. Now, those are facts. And there have been several lawsuits against the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church did have to come out and apologize for things that they had done to individuals while they were minors. So those are facts, but he is allegedly, and I'm just, like I said, alleged. I don't know yet. I'm going to investigate, find out some more information, and bring that to you guys, because these are important things to know, especially when people are held in regard, such as the papacy, just like the president, same thing. It's like, okay, we need to know what's going on with you when you're the leader of the free world. And so, let's see. Of course, I'm looking at all sides. You guys know that's like my favorite thing to do, to look at all sides. But from the center, it says the first American Pope, Cardinal Prevost, introduced as Pope Leo the 14th. From the right, Cardinal introduces the first American Pope, taking the name Leo. And then from the left, Robert Prevost of the United States is named Pope Leo the 14th. So nothing too inflammatory about any of their highlights or introductions, but you can definitely see from the left, from the right, from center, how they do word things, and how, from Fox News Digital, they highlighted on the right that he is the first American Pope to be, the Pope of the Catholic Church. Now, I don't know. To me, it just doesn't, I don't think about that part, like, oh my gosh, he's the first one from America. I was like, well, what's wrong with America? I mean, you got Catholic churches everywhere. You didn't have one in this whole time. Papacy's been around for a minute. You didn't have one. Okay, got it. But that's where they're at, and that's what they're doing. So let me go ahead and share my screen like I like to do, because I want you guys really to see what I'm seeing. And I really hope everybody enjoyed the show yesterday, where we really dove into ICE and looking at how they are doing, and whenever you see Tom Holman and he says, we are not doing enough, that's why, according to those numbers. So I wanted to, of course, look at the center. We're going to check out the Hill and see what they've had to say about the Pope, the new Pope. And the details are now known as Leo XIV, the first American pontiff in history, addressed a large crowd in Vatican City on Thursday evening, opening his remarks by saying, "Peace be with all of you." Prevost, who is Prevost? The 69-year-old was born in Chicago and is of Peruvian American descent. He spent significant time in Peru as a missionary and has also served as head of the Catholic Church's Order of St. Augustine. In 2023, Pope Francis chose him to lead the office that considers global bishop nominations. So, how he will approach his papacy, let's see. Outlets vary in how they characterize Leo XIV, but most often as a continuation of Francis's somewhat progressive legacy. According to CBS News, who links left, Prevost is seen as a progressive on many social issues. Overall, many view him as a centrist. Like Pope Francis, Prevost has spent time embracing marginalized groups such as the poor. His tenure will be similar in terms of basic goals to that of Pope Francis, a former colleague of Prevost told CBS. The kind of style he would bring to the papacy would be calm, steady, very direct kind of guidance. Okay, I mean, so they're not throwing him under the bus. They're not saying any bad things about him, and that's cool. I like that part. And so, how the media has covered it. The Cardinals who elected Prevost looked past allegations that he had mishandled or failed to act on sexual abuse cases involving priests in both Peru and the United States, according to the Washington Post. That means left. Now, before we actually got into this article, I was sharing with you guys that, yeah, there's some allegations flying out there, and I'm using the word allegedly because I do not have any court documents that specifically states that he's done this. So that's why I'm saying allegedly, and even the Washington Post is highlighting that. So his positions on some issues within the church are largely known, but he is thought to be close to Francis's views on the environment. The National Review News, who leans right, wrote, he recently amplified Francis's denunciation of Catholic U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance's use of the Ordo Amoris to defend the Trump administration's policy of mass deportations. So I'm not sure what the Ordo Amoris is, but if he didn't like the mass deportations, okay, I like them. I'm going to say that right now. I like all the deportations, and I want them to continue because I don't want criminals in my country, Pontiff. Okay? Like, no, I don't really have that kind of filter on me. I know everybody's like, oh, you got to be respectful. I'm being respectful, but respectfully, you're not going to tell, you know what I mean? Like, well, I'm just going to make you feel bad because I don't like you deporting people out of your country. What? Excuse me? Have you seen Germany? Have you seen the unfortunate enclaves of people who are not from Germany raping women from Germany? Have you seen that, Pontiff? That's happening here in the United States. And we have someone over ICE. His name is Tom Holman. And he is getting rid of all of the criminals and all of the people that don't belong here because we have laws, which people have broken. So I'm sure you could agree that you don't want people in other people's countries breaking laws. That's not what we're doing. It's not what we're doing, sir. So I'm sorry you don't like it. Sorry it hurts your feelings, about mass deportations, but your feelings are going to continue to be hurt every time. Every time. See, I'm not the right kind of person to meet someone like a pontiff or maybe a president because I'm going to tell them exactly how I stand on different issues. I'm not going to be afraid to tell someone, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Am I going to allow people to break laws? Really? You claim to be a man of the cloth, and yet you are talking about you don't like the policies of mass deportations? Okay. Thank you for letting me know who you are. Because I don't really think you're considering people that have lied to get into this country. And you would call them, oh, well, they're just desperate. Yeah, they are. And they need to go back home and they need to do it the right way because we do have laws in this country that allow for legal immigration, not illegal immigration. We do not want criminals in our country. And yes, if you are a mother and you came over here with your kid illegally, you're a criminal. And by proxy, you made your child a criminal. Go back home and do this the right way. Period. That's it. We're going to go over the 14th Amendment and why President Trump has made this such an issue. We'll be going over that on Monday. And we'll also be going over the Fifth Amendment, which they're also trying to use to give criminals due process. Yes, I am going to call them criminals. You broke the law, period. And you're not going to sit here in our country and be given resources. And that's on our Congress who did that. Specifically under the Biden administration, even though we have a federal law in place that was done in 1996 that states if you are coming here from a foreign country legally, you need to have a job. You cannot depend on the resources of this country. Well, they just totally skated over all of that the past 4 years and spent billions of dollars basically destroying our country. And we're not taking it. We're not doing that. And I'm so glad, like I said, again, that Tom Homan has, made it his mission to ensure the safety of American citizens, to make sure that the criminals are no longer here. That Donald Trump, he classified these gangs as terrorists so they could be removed from this country. I'm truly, truly grateful. You may not agree with everything about Donald Trump, but that is a policy that I can definitely get behind. And with that, we're going to take a short break, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Just remember, I'm my own best friend. That means I'm my own producer. So I have to put the wonderful commercials in place. See you in a bit.
At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it?
Hey guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on Unfiltered Vision News, where we bring you the news completely unfiltered. So this morning we were talking a little bit about the pontiff, and then of course I went off in my tangent about deportations because apparently, he's looking down on that here in our country. He doesn't think that, we should be deporting people. I'm like, really? Really? But let's get into some other news. I wanted to talk a little bit about the student loans because that's definitely a hot topic that's going on. And so from the Guardian and also the U.S. Department of Education, and then we'll get into the banking and finance that you see on the screen. But a little bit of my research, U.S. resumes collections on defaulted student loans. So the federal government has restarted collections on defaulted student loans after a 5-year pause due to COVID-19 pandemic. Approximately 195,000 borrowers will begin receiving notices about benefit offsets, with wage garnishments expected to follow later this summer. The move affects millions of Americans, many of whom are at risk of defaulting. And so the reason why I wanted to cover this is because, I think some of us have seen the TikTok videos of people just like crashing out about their student loans and different things. But here's the deal. Yes, the government can garnish your wages. They can, unfortunately, take your tax returns until you pay your debt. But I'm going to get into a little bit after we cover this story about things that you can do to alleviate that debt, and also maybe some things you can do as a maybe a new college graduate or someone who may need further skills, but you just don't have the money to go to college. There's some resources out there to help you further your education. So let's just check out the student loan borrowers that are in default or facing collections, right? So this is from Fox Business. This move comes after the Department of Education said last month that it is trying to protect U.S. taxpayers from shouldering the cost of federal student loans that borrowers willingly undertook to finance their post-secondary education. American taxpayers will no longer be forced to serve as collateral for irresponsible student loan policies. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon said in a statement, the Biden administration misled borrowers. Okay. So what Biden was trying to do is he was definitely trying to alleviate student loans, but what he was trying to do is he was trying to wipe away the debt completely and give people a fresh start, which I was kind of like, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. But if you can lower it, that would be great. Or, maybe even stop them from compounding interest daily, which, does make it to where I only borrowed $3,000. Why do I owe over $10,000? Even if you're in default, there should be a cap, in my opinion, on what can be charged for the payback. So if you were paying back, say, $3,500 or no more than $4,000 on a $3,000 loan, to me, that's a lot more respectable than this like loan sharking that's going on, in my opinion, by our federal government. Because I don't know if they realize, this interest, it compounds daily. I mean, you don't even have interest on a car that compounds daily. Okay. You might have interest that, you might have to divide it up if you're paying off your car loan, and it'd be like, okay, what's the interest, minus 30 days or 15 days, however, whenever you paid it off. But no, the interest on these loans is compounding daily. That can be crushing for anyone financially. And so I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of hope out there. That's why I wanted to cover this one first later on in the show. But here's the thing with the defaulted student loans. A borrower is in default when they fail to make payments for 270 days or more. This leads to wage garnishment, tax refund seizures, and credit damage. And so when we had the pause, right? Let me stop sharing my screen because I'm talking about something completely different. When they did the pause, I don't think people realized when they were in default that they should have communicated to go into forbearance or see if there were programs that they can get into so they can get out of default. They just saw, okay, there's a pause, there's a break. Even if I'm in default, it's kind of holding off the inevitable. Unfortunately, no. So now, as of 2025, 7 million Americans are in default, with collections now resuming after a long pause. That's the thing. I think people thought the pause might continue, and it just hasn't. So now we're going to get into why student loan is predatory. Okay, so you have easy access with little transparency. Loans are often issued to young students with limited financial literacy and without understanding long term repayment impacts. And this is true. You might have someone, I mean, I have student loans myself, but I did secondary education. But uh, initially, when I started going to school, they were like, yeah, we'll give you credit cards, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. But they really weren't focused on teaching you financial literacy. And this is where a lot of students, young students, get in trouble, and even parents get in trouble with their students trying to get their kids through school. So, loans are often issued to young students with limited financial literacy and without understanding long term repayment impacts. It's just true. It is what it is. So, compound interest traps. Many loans accrue interest during deferment or forbearance, leading to ballooning balances. So even though these loans were on like pause, the interest was still rolling like a fishing reel. Like I'm just telling you, that's what it was going on. So non-dischargeable in bankruptcy, which a lot of people do know, unlike credit card or medical debt, federal student loans are nearly impossible to discharge, and they are. Um, I forget what law it is. We'll have to look that up maybe later. But because some of these loans are with the federal government, they're non-dischargeable, which means you cannot discharge them in bankruptcy. Now, there have been some people to successfully discharge them with bankruptcy, but there are very extreme circumstances and hardships. And those are some things, that people may want to look into. Their circumstances may have changed over the 5-year period, and they just don't have the money to repay the loans the way they need to repay them. Let's just say that. But there's hope. Well, let's keep reading. Step-by-step solutions for borrowers in default. So there are some things that can be done. Short-term get out of default. Loan rehabilitation. Make 9 on-time payments in 10 months to restore good standing and remove the default on your credit report. Okay, so those are some things to do. Loan consolidation, which sometimes they're not talking about. Combine loans in one direct consolidation loan and enter an income-driven repayment plan. Now, that is actually available through your loan servicer. So long-term prevent future defaults. Income-driven repayment plan. Monthly payments based on income and family size, often as low as $0. So it behooves you to reach out to the Federal Student Loan Association and get your loans into an income-driven repayment program, because you don't know. Based on your income, you may not have to pay anything monthly. Seriously. And that's better than just being in default. And because of the pause, they may have some grace on you to actually get your account up to speed and into forbearance through the income-driven repayment program. So that's something I can look into. The public service loan forgiveness, which forgives remaining debt after 10 years of qualifying public service and payments. We're not talking about this either. That is also something you could do. Working in a public service role. I want to say teachers can do this, doctors. So definitely look up the public service, and also working for a charitable organization. And some of us, I know a lot of people serve and they volunteer. Just check to see if what you've done may qualify you. You might be qualified and don't even know it. So definitely, like I said, call the services and check. Budgeting and financial counseling. Use nonprofit organizations like nfcc.org to improve financial habits and literacy. Now, here's what I want to really talk to people about. Because right now, and I hate to say it, but college is becoming like a hustle. I mean, seriously, it really is. It is so expensive to go to school. And, you've got people who they go to school and they get these degrees because all of these jobs are saying you have to have this piece of paper behind you, even though when you get the job, they're going to train you to do it exactly how they want you to do it. And that doesn't apply on your degree that you just received. But again, you want children and parents to go into debt, put their kids through school, but then when they get out of school, there's no job for them because they really haven't attained job skills. They've acquired knowledge, right? But they have not acquired skills to actually make them a viable employee in the workplace. So insult to injury, and you have no, real resume that you put together, right? You don't have the training. I mean, it's a whole thing. So this is something you can do. There are smarter alternatives to traditional college debt. One is Allison.com, and that's Allison with one L. And it is a free accredited courses in business, IT, health, and more. Okay. They offer certificates and diplomas without the need for loans. Courses are self-paced and globally recognized for skill building. Now, I personally used Allison.com and I have my project management certificate from them, and it was free. I had to put in the work, I want to say it was like a 24 or 30 hour course. And they actually have, tests and quizzes that you do at the end of each segment, but it's free education. Most of the courses are free, and that's free training. Or you might be in a position where you need a better job and you might be interested in IT, but you really just don't want to spend $30,000 or $40,000 to learn the latest IT skills. Check out Allison.com because some of those courses are free. And you don't have to go into debt to learn the skills. Go on Indeed, and check out what kind of people they're looking for and what job skills they're looking for. And based on the job skills they're looking for, see if they offer courses for that at Allison.com. I mean, like I said, there's a way to get the education without crippling debt. And then there's another one. It's called Coursera, and that's Coursera. And they are partners with universities like Yale, Stanford, and Google. And they offer free and low cost courses, plus professional certificates and online degrees. And they give you access to real world skills in tech, business, AI, and data science. So like I said, there's a way to get this education without going into debt. And some of the key advantages over a traditional college that they have is, number one, no student debt. You will work while you learn. You get industry relevant skills, and there's no need for federal aid or loans. A lot of the schools, and this is, I guess, where I see it's kind of a hustle, because you got kids that come to these colleges, and these colleges know that a lot of these kids can get this federal money. And the federal government's like, yeah, we want you to go to school. But no one's really explaining to this child, yeah, if you take out this $40,000 debt, by the time you get ready to pay it, it's going to be close to $60,000. No one's telling them that. But everybody's encouraging them to go to school and sign on the dotted line. Maybe we need to, really give our children some financial literacy while they're in high school, before they graduate, that this is the kind of debt that you could be in a real time situation. We really need to give people the skills that they need to succeed, and we're not doing that as a society. And we need to get back to it. So we're going to take a short break. But yeah, definitely check out Allison, and that's with one L, Allison.com, and also Coursera. And I'll see you guys on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads. trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bytes can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments, so it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source, because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question: do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me back here on Unfiltered Vision News, where we bring you the news unfiltered. Happy Friday to everybody out there. Enjoy your Friday. Woo-hoo, we made it. It's the 9th of Friday, and the world is still rolling. And I know it's difficult out there. Trust me. Every day it's like, what's going on now? And yeah, we got to talk about it. Got to talk about the tariffs, right? Oh my goodness, the tariffs. Everybody is just like, oh, it's crazy. So here we go. So the US and the UK announced trade deal to lower tariffs. What? Right. Lowering tariffs. Okay. So President Donald Trump announced a full and comprehensive agreement with the United Kingdom to lower tariffs. And this happened yesterday. So the UK agreed to reduce or eliminate some tariffs. Sorry, guys, and pop-ups. Reduce or eliminate some tariffs on U.S. goods, and the U.S. will reduce tariffs on UK steel, aluminum, and auto parts. So they're just negotiating that back and forth. Trump said the deal would also streamline more U.S. exports of beef and ethanol to the UK. The deal leaves in place the 10% basic tariff on all UK goods the Trump administration announced on April 2nd. So this was actually a little bit older. Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha. So on April 2nd is when he did that initial announcement. And so this, where we're at now, is based on what he did on April 2nd. So some of the keynotes, the deal will cement the relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom for many years to come. Trump said via Truth Social, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer called the deal fantastic and historic. Great. Both leaders praised the other's professionalism and negotiating efforts. Wonderful. Okay, for context, Trump has imposed steep tariffs on auto, steel, and aluminum since returning to office. All UK imports were hit with a 10% tariff, with an additional 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum and auto parts. The UK had also placed a 10% duty on car imports. So the US is the largest market for British auto exports and one of the UK's most important trade partners. So I'm really glad they were able to come to an agreement. So now let's see how it was covered. So coverage grew negative as details of the agreement slowly trickled out. When the news first broke, the New York Times, that leans left, said the deal could be a significant win for both countries, which have long sought closer economic cooperation. Even though they're leaning left, I don't find that bad coverage. Okay. CNBC, who also leans left, focused on positive stock market reactions and how the dollar strengthened against other currencies following the announcement. Later in the day, the Times wrote, as the dust settled, though it became clearer that it was just a framework for a deal and there could be weeks, if not more, of additional negotiations before it became final. So an economic analyst told Washington Post, which leans left, the deal wouldn't nearly make up for the damage of the 10% tariffs still in place. So how the right covered it is Fox Business. They showcased the deal's agricultural and quoted Donald Trump and his cabinet officials several times. One American News, which is also right, called the deal major and massive and included two of Trump's Truth Social posts. So really, I don't see the coverage as awful on the left and the right. I think people brought up, legitimate concerns, and they also brought up, the positive feedback it was having. Let me know in the chat, because you guys can chat with me. I know how to see it now. So bad. I was like, I don't know where the comments are, but I can see them if you do leave comments. And just understanding like, okay, this is one of the deals. I know like some of the other countries, when they got hit with the tariffs, they were just like, okay, we'll back down. We're just gonna let you have it, Donald. And we'll do, we'll work with you. But this is big that it is UK, because they are, one of our major partners outside of China now. I know China, it's still a thing. And I think it's going to be a thing maybe till maybe the end of the summertime. I give it till the end of summer with that, because, the tariffs are a big deal. They really, really are. Okay. So let's check out the story of the week. Like, I'm interested. Now I'm just playing around and here with you guys on here. I do have some other news that I did pan out and that I wanted to talk about. But we did talk about this yesterday. The India, how they launched strikes against terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan early on Wednesday in retaliation for the massacre of Indian tourists in Kashmir on the 22nd of April. The operation, named Operation Sindoor, targeted 9 Pakistani terrorist sites, including some allegedly. Okay. And like I said, I'm just not, I can't stand war. Okay, so some of this news is pretty old. Yeah, it's pretty old. We'll go back up to the news, blogs, and Target. And when we come back from our next break, we'll talk about it. But there's some other things that I did want to discuss, some news that I took some notes on. And one of them that I found was very interesting, that the Trump organization, they are enforcing the removal of transgender troops. So the Trump administration has begun enforcing a policy to remove transgender individuals from the U.S. military. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirmed that up to 1,000 troops are affected, with additional reviews of medical records planned. Now, I know this is going to be a total hot button issue for a lot of individuals, especially those within the LGBTQ community, who are just like, well, what's the problem? Why can't these people, have, their rights to their expression? Well, the one thing, and I've still not heard anybody bring this up, when you sign up to the U.S. military, you are signing a contract. And within that contract, you have to state and affirm that you are who you say you are, according to your birth certificate. So if your birth certificate says you're a male or a female, that's who you have to enlist as and stay as while you are serving in the military, because you signed an agreement, you signed a document. Now, if you decide that you no longer want to be that, which it's impossible to do. Now, you can put on a dress, And you can have all your body parts cut off, but a man will never produce eggs, which are ovum, which women are born with. A woman will never produce sperm because she is not born with that. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. And contractually, you cannot go into this contract saying that you're somebody you're not. So a transgender cannot go to the recruiting office and say, hey, I want to sign up and be put with the women, even though I was born a man. Or you're already enlisted and you decide you're a man and you want to become a woman. Now you have to put me in with the women. No, you cannot do that because you signed a contract stating and affirming you are who you are according to your birth certificate, period. This is contractual and that's legal. All right. I'm not giving out any advice. I'm just stating the facts. And I never hear this come up when they're having this argument and going back and forth with people. Just tell them you signed a contract and you can't just change the contract because you feel like it. Now, if you want to be discharged from the military and then have your sex change and go ahead and go onward and live your life, totally fine. You know, even here in the state of Georgia, we had the whole Democratic House walk out on a vote. And the vote was to defund people in prison here in Georgia getting sex change operations. I'll say it again. It was to defund sex change operations, meaning you can't use the taxpayers' money to give someone an elective surgery in prison. And the Democrats walked out on that, as opposed to, you know, voting on it, because they were in favor of taking our tax dollars and giving it to prisoners who are criminals who've committed a crime to allow them to have sex changes. They just walked out. They just didn't vote. They were just like, nope, we're not doing it. We're not putting our name on that. I'm like, are you serious? Like, really? This is the hill y'all are going to die on. This is truly the hill that the Democratic Party is going to die on. And this further lets me know that this is just an issue. I mean, why are we even wasting our time removing transgender? Like, why are you even in there? Why are you in the military? Stop. If you want to serve in the military, you serve as you are on your birth certificate. After you leave the military, that's your business. And we're not going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, do what you want to do on your dime and on your time. But why are you in here on the time of the American people? No, I'm not about it. I don't like it. And I'm glad that they're being removed. And some of them actually might get removed with a dishonorable discharge, which is worse. And then they won't even have access to funding. And what I mean by that is, you know, people retire from the military and they're given a stipend, and then they have access to certain benefits. So you're going to forfeit your benefit? Okay. That's what you want to do. Can't stop it. All right. Some other news that I wanted to cover is the Chinese president, Xi Jinping. He attended the Russia's Victory Day. So President Xi Jinping of China visited Moscow to attend Russia's Victory Day celebrations, meeting with President Vladimir Putin. This visit underscores the strengthening ties between the two nations amid global geopolitical shifts. Yeah, because they still want to get together and put together that coin, that BRICS coin. I know everybody, they talk about it, they don't talk about it, and I'm like, yeah. Russia and China get together? I don't know. That puts the United States in a little bit of a pickle. We need to be a part of those conversations. We need to be in that relationship. Right now, China, they are not happy with us because of the tariffs. So they are trying to build a strong relationship with Russia, because Russia, they might not have the greatest economy, but it's pretty strong. Let's see. The U.S. Department of Education faces potential closure. Now, we know that they've already pretty much, I don't want to say they've shut down the Department of Education, they've tapered it down. So a lot of people that were working for the department are no longer working for the department. It's smaller. I think it might be reporting to the State Department right now for some of the ongoing things that they have, like obviously student loans, and then there's other education programs. But some of the food programs, they were actually shifted to the agricultural department. So there are still things that were under the Department of Education that are still in place, but they're just in different areas. So I need people not to panic, like, oh my gosh, the Department of Education. So President Trump, he had signed the executive order to close the Department of Education, aiming to transfer its responsibility to other federal agencies. So the move has sparked debate over the future federal education oversight. So here's the deal. The Board of Education never had oversight over anyone. All they were there for is if a state needed funding for an educational program, they had somewhere they could go. Or if they were saying, hey, we need to get all the teachers on the same page around the country for this, that's what they were there for. They were more so there to assist the states with education as opposed to being over the education and dictating this is what you're going to teach the children. What happens in each state is according to each state. And they have laws that are different in how they educate their children. Like Florida to California is completely different from New York or Indiana. You know, I had the opportunity to be educated in California, and then I moved to Indiana for my senior year in high school. And I noticed when I was going to summer school, a young lady, she was, reading a science book. And I asked her what grade she was in. And she was like, oh, I'm in the 9th grade. I'm going in the 10th grade. And I was like, is that your science book? Like, I'm just trying to check. And she was like, yeah, that's my science book. And I was like, I had that book when I was in the 5th grade. And this was in Indiana. Okay. So this is right around the time I was like 16. And I sat there, and it made me so sad because here somebody is a 9th grader going into high school who had a book that I had used when I was in the 5th grade. That's a 4-year difference of literacy. And that shouldn't be happening, but that is happening across our country. And those are the things that we're not talking about. We are talking about how our children are being educated in ways that parents weren't aware of until the pandemic. And then they started to find out what they were teaching our kids. And they're still fighting to teach kids things that should not be taught. And they don't want to teach them how to read and write. We definitely have young people that are graduating this year, and they can't even do basic math in their head. And that's sad. And that's what we need to get back to. We need to get back to educating our babies, because that's important. Because guess what, guys? In 30 years, they're going to need to take care of me. I want them educated. I do not want somebody who cannot read, write, who doesn't have compassion, who isn't empathetic. I need them to have all of the skills. Okay? And we all need to be fighting to make sure that they have those skills. So when they have children, they can pass down good things to them and not bad. Let's see. So Bill Gates, this dude, this guy, he has pledged over $200 billion for global initiatives. Yeah, that guy. So philanthropist Bill Gates has announced plans to invest over $200 billion in the next 2 decades to address global challenges, including health crisis and climate change. The pledge is part of his commitment to donate the majority of his wealth. Because everybody goes, well, how is he donating all this money, but he's not broke? Because he uses it in a circular way. By him donating the money, he didn't have to pay taxes on that. But what's going to happen is it's going to be donated to some foundations. Well, who owns the foundations? He does. He owns a lot of these foundations that money goes to. So it's basically laundered through the foundations, which are tax exempt, by the way. So he's just basically giving money to himself. This is how wealthy people stay wealthy. They don't spend their money. They get government contracts, and then they donate money to other organizations. But guess what? They may be sitting on the board of those organizations or even own those organizations. So it sounds fantastic when they say they're donating all this money, but it's really not going to any of the causes, because guess what? You can use 80% of the money for administrative costs and only have to use 20% of it to the cause that you say you want the money to go to. Yeah. And about, the whole health crisis and all that other stuff, he's got patents with certain companies and certain drug and manufacturing things. He's got patents. So those patents pay him. And he donates the money so he doesn't have to pay taxes on it. That's what this is about. It's about tax evasion. I see that and I'm like, yep, that's complete tax evasion. But see, those of us who make under 100,000 a year, we don't know the game. We're not millionaires. This is how the millionaires and billionaires and trillionaires get away with not paying taxes, because he's famous for it. He gives it away. He gives away money all the time, but he's giving it away to his own foundations, who also get grants. And a grant is something you don't have to pay back, not a loan. Or they get government contracts from our government. Yeah. So utilizing our tax dollars to become wealthy. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, but he knows the game. We're just not doing it at our level. I mean, maybe we need to just, maybe I can find somebody and have them come on to talk about government contracts, and how it works and how people are actually making money in that arena and in that sector. And so let's talk about another story that's coming up. The Australian political landscape shifts. Oh my goodness. With leadership challenges. So in Australia, Matt Kavanagh has announced a leadership challenge against Nationals leader David Littleproud, aiming to shift the party's climate policies. Simultaneously, the Liberal Party sees narrowing leadership race, indicating significant political alignments. Interesting. Because Australia is interesting. Like, they don't have guns, which is interesting to me. Like, they took away their guns. So I find it fascinating that, they're in alignment, but I'm glad that they are, because, we saw a lot of things during COVID-19 that weren't that great, unfortunately, that people were getting locked up. They're out now, thank goodness, after quarantining, but, people couldn't stand up for themselves. They really got taken advantage of by their political leaders. And then the last story we're going to cover right now, and we'll be going into shortly with the prayer with segment. But UK wildfires surge amid record temperatures. So the United Kingdom has experienced a surge in wildfires, with over 400 incidents reported since the start of the year. Wow. The unprecedented heat wave has raised concerns about climate change and emergency preparedness. So that's really sad that they're going through the same kind of wildfires that happened in California. But I also need people to realize that they are trying to introduce 15-minute cities, and that might be something we go over, and I keep bringing up all this information, but 15-minute cities are cities basically that you can get around in 15 minutes. It's live, work, play. But the downside to these cities is that you would be charged a carbon tax if you went outside of the city. So if you drove your car outside, so that would be 20 minutes, being that they're 15-minute cities, you would be charged an extra tax. So in my opinion, it's not, the 15-minute cities, they sound great, but it's like slavery, because if you leave that area and you don't really have the money to afford it, can't leave. So you're a prisoner in the town that you're living in. I think that's really horrible, but that's something that we can definitely look into as we continue to have these further discussions. But we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
We've unified our end-to-end encrypted services to make them easier to use together, because privacy should be the default for everyone. With the new Proton ecosystem, you can add events to Proton Calendar automatically when you accept an invitation. Easily share large files with a secure Proton Drive link. Send secure Proton Drive links privately with Proton Mail.
And thank you, and welcome again to Unfiltered Vision News. I'm so excited because today I have a very special guest, my grandma. She's going to be coming on today to join me in a segment called Prayer With. And this is going to be a weekly segment on Fridays where we have a special guest that will pray with us on Friday, and just really going into the weekend before we get to Sunday, just to have that cover of God. So I'm going to bring her up on the stage now. I'm so excited. Hey, Grandma.
Hi, precious. How are you?
Good. Oh, it's so good to see you. Looks good. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. So everyone, this is my grandma, Sally Baker. She is 94 years young, and I'm just really grateful to have her in my life. I hope I don't get teared up during this segment, but I want her to, just tell her a little bit more about herself, and then we'll get into maybe a few topics, and then we'll pray. So go ahead, Grandma.
God bless all of you, and good morning to everybody, especially my beautiful, beautiful granddaughter. And I'm so honored that she thought about me for prayer, because prayer is the key. I love to pray. I often think about Jesus on the Mount of Olives and the effect that prayer has, not only one or two people, but everybody all around the world benefits from prayer. And when my granddaughter asked me to pray, I'm thinking to myself, I'm probably not adequate to go on her program to pray, because I wouldn't know what to say. But then I thought about it. I said, Lord, you know my heart, you know my desires, you know all about me. But most of all, you know the needs of men, women, boys, and girls all around the world. And prayer is the way that we talk to you, Father. And I know that there is nothing that's too hard for you. So I know you're able to give me what and how to say this morning as I prayed for men, women, boys, and girls everywhere, the real desire of my heart is the words of a song everybody ought to know and needs to know who Jesus is. I thank you, Lord, for parents that loved you and that raised us to love and trust and obey you, that we might have lives worth living, because it's you, Father God, through your Son, Jesus, that makes life worth living. And I thank you, Hashaki, for the opportunity to go to the throne of grace in prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed would be thy name. And Father God, I thank you for the name Jesus. I thank you for your Son, Jesus. And Jesus, I love you. And I thank you so much for being willing to come to this earth, an earth of sin and darkness. But you were willing to come and give your life, that we all, men, women, boys, and girls, down through the generations, that we might all have an opportunity to come to the throne of grace and learn how to live lives effective, lives that would be a blessing to everyone around us, but most of all, lives that would reflect a loving Savior and our wonderful Father God. Lord, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. And I thank you for giving my granddaughter, Hashaki, an opportunity to speak to men and women, boys and girls, because I believe that she loves you and she really loves your people. Thank you for giving her an opportunity to spread your word, to share your love. And thank you, Father God, for putting me on her mind for such a time as this. For it is truly the desire of my heart that you live your life in and through me, that men and women, boys and girls will know that now is the day of redemption. Now is the time when, if we ever needed the Lord before, we really and truly need you now. We need you every day and every moment to lead us and guide us, to use us to your glory. For there are so many children, even, that are in homes where there's not even a Bible. And we know that your word is light, and we need light in a dark world. And I'm asking you, Father God, that you will just continue to shine in Hashaki's life and continue to give her an opportunity to speak on your behalf, that men, women, boys, and girls who might otherwise not know you will come into the realization that we all need a Savior, because the time is coming when we're not going to be able to be here in this earth. But thank you, Father God, for Jesus, who came and made it possible that we all might have life eternal with you. And I love you, Lord. Now give me the wisdom to not miss an opportunity to shed the light of the gospel of Jesus Christ, who loves us and who will save us. And he will save anybody who comes to him with a repentant heart and asks, Jesus, please save me and save me now. Lord, have your way. Let your will be done. Continue to bless her, Jackie, as she goes forward with whatever work you have her to do in your kingdom. Give me the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding not to miss a single opportunity to let my light shine. For it is as men and women, boys and girls see you through us, that they will come running saying, what must I do to be saved? And I'll always give you the praise, Father God, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Oh, that was such a beautiful prayer, Grandma. Thank you so much. And thank you for praying for me, because this world is very crazy, as you know. So thank you so much for joining us and praying. And I didn't know, is there anything that you may want me to, a topic that you might want me to talk about or share with the viewers here?
Oh my goodness. You said any topic that I would want you to talk about?
Yes.
Oh, well, I would just like to know more about how we can take advantage of the opportunities that each one of us has every day to reach out to somebody, whether it's a man, woman, boy, or girl, and really show them through our lives, through the words that we say, the thoughts that we have, how very real the Son of God really is, and how much he loves us and wants to show us the way to live lives that will lead us to eternal joy and happiness and fulfillment with him. Okay. That would be one of my greatest heart's desire.
Okay, so I will make sure. So you guys you heard it all here. So I will make sure to continue to encourage you, not just to read the news, but to actually seek the news that you can use. And that's in the Bible, that's in God's word. And it's really, seeking Jesus out, because God has always been there for us, but we never really think about it like that. He's just waiting for us to return. He really is. His arms are wide open, and his son Jesus died for us so we could have that communication with him. So, Grandma, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I might have you on again. Just be prepared. This is so beautiful to have you just come and pray with us. And I really hope everybody listening was inspired.
Thank you, darling. I thank God for blessing Sidel to bring you into this world. Continue to let Jesus lead and use you to his glory.
Thanks, Grandma. Love you.
Love you more.
Okay, so thank you guys for, that was my grandma. I think I did okay, because I was ready to break down and cry. I'll break down and cry later. But she's just an amazing woman, and I've been, kind of dreaming about this moment for a long time. Hopefully I'll start crying. But just to be able to have a platform where I could share her with everybody else, because I'm always, in my close circle, I'll tell people how amazing my grandma is. But now, with the internet and with this show, I can reach out to hundreds and thousands of people and just share how amazing she is, and her heart and her love, and just how she helped all of us growing up serve and have a servant's heart. And that doesn't always happen. So I'm going to take a little short break, calm down a little bit. But thank you again for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, and we'll be right back.
All Sides has created a path.
And we are back. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, where we are bringing you the news unfiltered. And if you just missed it, my grandma was here with me live on the show, but you'll definitely be able to watch on the rebroadcast. And we will be rebroadcasting this program on the Roku channel under Let the Truth Be Told Network. So if you have Roku, if you have a TV, any of the Roku devices, you can stream this show, Unfiltered Vision News, along with Let the Truth Be Told. And we also have another show with Andre Barnes from Numbers USA. And his show is, I want to say it's PB&J Politics or something like that. I have to get the name of it, but we have three different shows right now that we're syndicating on the network. Pretty soon we will have a live lineup, so you'll be able to watch me live also on Roku. So we're really excited about it. We will also be on Apple Television, and we're going to have an app that you can download in iOS or Android. So really excited. Fire TV as well as Apple TV. So we're going to, try to be in as many places as we can to bring you the news, like I said, unfiltered. And like I said, I'm also a guest on the Let the Truth Be Told talk show with Pastor David Lowry. And so I'm going to bring you a little bit more news for today. And we're going to go into this weekend happy. It is Mother's Day weekend. So happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. And Grandma, I'm sorry that I didn't wish you a happy Mother's Day where you were on with me, but thank you again so much for just joining us today and praying with me on the inaugural prayer with segment. So we're going to look at a few more news programs out there in the world today. I was like, I shouldn't be able to run out of news, but I kind of ran out of news, which isn't a bad thing because, oh my gosh, there are so many things going on. And I just really want you guys to be really well equipped with news that you can use. So there are actually some May Day protests across the U.S. There are thousands participated in a May Day protest nationwide, advocating for labor rights, immigration reforms, and criticizing the Trump administration's policies. Major demonstrations occurred in cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York. Now, I find that interesting that those demonstrations occurred in those particular cities because those particular cities, even though Los Angeles doesn't call themselves a sanctuary city, they could be considered one. But Chicago and New York, they are sanctuary cities. And so May Day, is one of those days that they're celebrating, and I'll have to go back and truly research it, but I want to say it's maybe a day of freedom or whatever, something along those lines. But they're taking this opportunity to demonstrate against Trump's policies, which I find it fascinating. It's like, okay, so labor rights, I can understand because there is child labor and we shouldn't have that. But I don't know how that affects with Trump, but okay. Immigration reforms. We definitely only need immigration reform because we don't want people coming here illegally. We want people coming here legally. And the immigration process can be quite cumbersome in the United States. But I think a lot of people get misled when they are trying to get citizenship within the United States. I think, in my opinion, they just run into some bad actors that take advantage of them as opposed to going directly to the United States government and saying, okay, where on the governmental website can I get, citizenship? And they run into people who know that they are desperate to get out of the situation they are in, maybe in their country, and come here and have a better life. But then they end up in a worse situation because, number one, they've come here illegally. Now they have somebody, telling them you have to apply for these benefits and you're going to give me part of those benefits that you receive. And then they might even end up in sex trafficking or something worse. So we really need to make our immigration policy a lot less cumbersome and a lot more clear, and vet people, because you can't just come over here to our country, overstay your visa, and then demand that you have rights. No, it doesn't work like that. You can be deported and go home, and you should, because if you're not going to do this the right way, you should not be here. We cannot expect to be a nation of laws and allow people to break those same laws. We have to have a standard. And so I'm really appreciative of the immigration reform that Donald Trump has put in place. And next week, I really want to go over the 14th Amendment and how Donald Trump brought that to the forefront pretty much right around in his first month in office, and why he did that, and what precedent that sets, and why there are so many people that are really upset about how he's bringing it up, because there are people that have abused the 14th Amendment, and it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So definitely join us next week when we have that further discussion. But that's, something I want to talk to you guys about. We did talk about the measles outbreak earlier this week, and apparently a significant measles outbreak has been reported in the southwestern United States, with over 800 confirmed cases: Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Kansas. So health officials are urging vaccinations to curb the spread. Now, measles, it is something that you definitely can survive, and some people don't. Not everybody does. But there are fewer people that die from measles than actually have them. And you are going to have a whole bunch of cases, because guess what? Just like the chicken pox when I was little, people would come to school not realizing they had chicken pox, and then it would spread, and it would be like a little mini pandemic in the school, and then half the school would be out. But then after that, everybody came back to school. There might be some, at the time, I don't remember people dying from chicken pox when I was growing up. Maybe later on, but there have been so many children that have got the varicella shot, and that's a chickenpox shot. My daughters, plural, have gotten it. And it was interesting because my youngest one, she got shot, but she also got chickenpox. So it doesn't really protect you to that degree. What it's supposed to do is boost your immune system. So if you get the chickenpox, you have a better chance of not getting it as bad or not getting it at all. And then to that point, some people get shingles later on in life if they've gotten the chicken pox. Okay. So just because you got it once doesn't mean it can't come back. And with the measles, mumps, rubella shot, there have been a lot of children to get that shot. And so it has reduced the amount of measles within our country, but it hasn't eliminated it. And I need people to understand that we will always have viruses within the scope of the earth. We're human beings. There will always be viruses, and it's okay to have viruses as long as we know how to deal with them, as long as we're healthy, right? And not all the time. See, viruses, you can't treat a virus with an antibiotic because it is not bacterial. It's not a bacterial infection. It is something that will pass, and is something they can be rough. The flu can be rough. I got COVID-19 a couple of years ago, and I was glad that I got it, because now I only get sick maybe once a year, twice, if that, and I'm only sick for a couple of days, and that's it. So my body, I have my own best immune system without getting injections. I do not get the flu shot. I don't get any injections because of that. It's like, no, you're not going to put something in my body when I know my body can recover on its own. And, sometimes getting a cold or a virus is okay because it's actually exercising your immune system. And it's okay for our immune systems to be challenged. They need to be. That's why we have them. But it's almost like lifting weights or exercising or jogging. When you haven't done it in a while, you can be kind of, passed out somewhere because of it. But if it's hitting you in little doses and you're able to recover faster and quicker, and like I said, eating better, exercising, and that can be just taking a walk, right? Exercising. Eating better could just be like, okay, I'll only have pizza twice a month instead of every day or every other or every week. It's just making better choices. And I'm really grateful for Maha. I'm going to give a few little shout outs since we're going to have a positive Friday, right? Grateful for Maha that they are, putting people in place that want to protect the American public. Grateful for RFK that he, has encouraged people to use tallow. Yeah, I want to say tallow. And, Steak and Shake got right on it. So if there's a Steak and Shake near you, you can actually get your fries with tallow, fried in beef tallow instead of a seed oil that, isn't really great for you. But tallow, it's a clean grease or oil that you can cook in. So just grateful for something like that. What else has he been up to? Oh, with the vaccines, really looking into the vaccines, because I know that Donald Trump, his heart is he wants to make sure that people are healthy and doing things. That's why he put RFK in place. And I know they want to, fast track a lot of these medical facilities. He wants medicines made here in the United States as opposed to overseas. And those things are great and beneficial. But we also have to make sure that we are being careful, right? Because sometimes we can be overly medicated and really not looking at natural cures. You may be able to eat your way out of certain situations. People have been able to, reverse their diabetes or actually do better with their diabetes, maybe going from an injection to the pill to different alternative means of living with diabetes as opposed to constantly having to take an injection in their stomach to help process their foods. So, there are areas that we're doing better in, but we can continue to do better by one another. So with that, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bites can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments, so it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source, because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question. Do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Vision News, where we're bringing you the news unfiltered. And it is free to all out there that will be meeting with your family, or you might be traveling this weekend. So definitely have a great time, great dinners, get great pictures, right? Because memories count. Let's definitely do all of that. So, Wendy, get back into some more topics before we end the top of the hour. So I wanted to get into one, is the U.S. economy stable, right? Because unfortunately, we've gotten to this point where there are some people that are doing well and there's some people that aren't, and in every economy you're going to have that. But in my opinion, this economy is a little bit more volatile because we've got the tariffs, we've got the student loans, we've got inflation. There's so many economic things going on that people are really scared. They're scared. The housing prices right now, in my opinion, it's a buyer's market, because a lot of houses have been sitting on the market, close to a year, and they've had to drop their selling prices of their homes. I mean, we're actually looking for a house right now, and I've seen, and not like, small dips, like very significant dips. And, we talked yesterday how the Federal Reserve chairman, and how I want to say interest rates were like at 4%, 4.25%, and he doesn't want to lower the interest rates. Well, by not lowering the interest rates, okay, it's going to be difficult to buy a house, buy a car, even if you don't own a home right now, if you're renting, the impacts, can, feel crushing to some of us. And I just really want to give people some hope out there. But I'm going to share my screen really quick and go to my favorite, location, All Sides, that I've really been enjoying sharing with you guys. And because I want you to see what I'm seeing. I know I do talk from my news notes that I have, and trust me, I've cited the sources, and I know it's good information, but I do like to share it with you this way from all sides so you can see it with me. Talking about, is the U.S. economy stable? As the uncertainty of President Donald Trump's tariff policies has sparked conversation about a potential recession and caused am I pronouncing that right? Tumult caused tumult in the stock market. Okay. Reactions have varied across the spectrum as to strengthen the U.S. economy. So according to CNN, and they are left by bias, a senior economist at the libertarian-leaning think tank Competitive Enterprise Institute said that people's behavior as they anticipate consequences of the tariffs is making the economy appear stronger than it actually is. So people are stockpiling now. He said that's helping the economy now. And then they're going to spend even less. So I hear what he's saying. So if you're going out and let's say you're just doing canned foods, we use canned foods as an example, and you have the resources to buy the canned foods, but then in a couple months, you're not buying them. Because down the line, you have what you need. You kind of did the hunter-gatherer situation. I'm glad we haven't had like massive toilet paper runs like we did in the first pandemic. And what was that about anyway? Really? Toilet paper? I don't know. Jury's still out on that. So from the center, the Wall Street Journal was more optimistic, writing that the U.S. economy showed remarkable resilience in the face of enormous pressure. It noted that employers added more jobs than economists expected last month, and that the gross domestic product contraction in the first quarter was a result of the rush of pre-tariff imports, right? However, the journal also reported that uncertainty around the tariff policies caused some large companies, such as Apple and General Motors, to drop their profit forecast and increase cost cutting. So, that was a mouthful, by the way. So, in essence, what that's telling us is it's like, yes, the economy's still doing well, but that doesn't mean that I want to say, companies aren't going to be conservative with how they spend and how they go forward into the year, because tariffs, they do affect everybody, not so much how we're spending, but it affects how companies spend money to get the products that they need to actually manufacture goods and services that we consume. So it's really hitting everybody, and it's hitting everybody in a different way. And so I think that was, the biggest uproar about the tariffs. Like, oh no, you're going to shake things up. You're shaking things up because we're trying to make it fair. And in trying to make things fair, there was a lot of exposure, right? And a lot of negotiating. And now that everything is shaking out, we will be in a better place, stability wise, especially with, them having the agreement with UK. But it does come back to China. It's like, okay, are they going to be able to come to the table and come to an agreement? And I think they will. I'll give it a couple more weeks, but they will. They'll have to. And on the right, Fox reported on Trump's statement that we're going to do fantastically. Trump said, yeah, everything's okay. And when asked if he thinks a short-term recession is all right in the pursuit of his long-term goals, and this is what Trump said, I said this is a transition period. Trump also said that some people on Wall Street say that we're going to have the greatest economy in history. And they might be saying that because we're shifting the way we are with the economy, so to speak, we're doing things that will help down the road. Things had gotten overinflated. We're spending too much money over here. We're losing too much money over there. And when you make that adjustment, we stop spending too much money over here, start saving as opposed to bleeding. Other people are paying their fair share. There's an adjustment period to get back to normal. And then you'll be able to really see how things shake out, right? We do want the dollar to be stronger. Right now, it's the dominant currency, fiat, but it's losing some of its dominance. Some people are okay with that in the stock market because they have instruments to bet against it. So they're making money irregardless. And we'll have one of my financial friends on to talk more about that. But I think we're going to do better with this economy because, one, a lot of the tax resources that we were spending out for people who should not have been here and been on public, public resources, that money is being saved. So that's a savings, but it's not in the public sector. So when government saves money, it's great, but we also need money flowing through our corporate sector, jobs being added. So because when people are working, they're spending money, right? And then when they're spending money, there's money, flowing through the economy. So everybody benefits from that ecosystem. So that's where I see it. And, we can see on the left how they're covering it. America's economy may actually be even weaker than it appears, right? Like I said, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And then in the center, U.S. economy shows remarkable resilience in the face of turmoil. So they're a little bit more optimistic here. And on the right, Trump dismisses Wall Street's worries about short-term recession. I think we're going to do fantastically, And this is someone who, has been involved in the stock market. He knows, the major key players. And when people are, in essence, dumping their stocks or buying up, several stocks, they're manipulating the market. And there are people out there that have enough money to do that. And so to me, I'm like, yeah, you're just doing stuff, because with a word, the market can go up or down depending on who says it. If it's the president, if it's someone in Congress, if it's someone who owns a large company where there are a lot of investors in the stock of that particular company, with just a word or a sentence, they can shift the whole economy. I don't know if everybody, and I might be dating myself saying this, but E.F. Hutton, people, there used to be commercials where it's like, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. And that's why, because with a word or with a sentence, people can literally shift the economy, which, good, bad, or indifferent, it is what it is. I definitely want to see us in a better situation. So let's see, common ground on economy and jobs. And this is something I'm just, exploring all sides. It says at least 83% of adults, at least some support a $12 minimum wage. What do you guys think? Because I know they were floating $15 for a while. And some people said, well, if they have a $15 minimum wage, what would that do to the economy? And would workers, be able to support themselves? Okay, would they be able to support themselves? But would the company be able to sustain it? And honestly, I think they would. I mean, with as much money as McDonald's makes, and I watched a video on this a couple of years ago, they said if our cost of living, so say our hourly wage, if it really would have kept up, right, our wages with cost of living and everything, we should be paying fast food workers like close to $40 an hour, right? I know people are like, what? Yeah, just to keep up with the cost of living. I'm not talking about just wage increases, just the cost of living. Now, some of these companies, like fast food companies, could they afford to pay their workers more? Absolutely. Absolutely. And in some cases they are. I mean, my kids, when they were working, they were making like $12, $15 an hour working fast food. But those fast food companies, right, we're in California, number one, and they want to keep good talent. And so a lot of times people are going to pay more to have the talent. But then you have to go, okay, well, as a company, are you still making a good profit after you've paid your wages? Where there are other companies, they're only going to pay people maybe $7, $10 an hour or less. I think in some areas, I want to say that what they call it, the minimum wage was like $6.75 or $7.75. I have to look up what the minimum wage is. But that was a big debate in the Senate a couple of years ago to make a standard, I should say, increase the minimum wage. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. This House and Senate, they are who they are, right? They are who they are. Okay, so U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement tracking controversial deportations and detainments under the Trump administration. Looks interesting. Let's check that out. Okay. Wow, because we've been talking about deportations. You guys know how I feel about it. I'm pretty strong on it. And the reason why I'm so strong on deportations is because of the harm to individuals that come over here illegally. Like I said, if you come over here legally, you actually have better protections. But when you break the law and you're here, people can take advantage of that and exploit people with that. There's going to be a lot that starts to come out about human trafficking, but it was done under our federal government because it was actually reported to HHS under the last administration, and they didn't do anything about it. And it's going to come out, and it's going to be big. So just stay tuned. I will definitely be sharing it with you as it shakes out. But yeah. Okay, so all sides is tracking the latest developments, updates on controversial deportations and detainments under the Trump administration. We can see the daily development in cases of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Razamek Ozturk, and Muhammad Khalil, and others. People are being deported despite being legal U.S. residents. Okay, reasons range from anti-Israel speech to alleged gang affiliations to administrative errors. Some are accusing the Trump administration of stifling First Amendment rights and other constitutional protections. Okay, visiting America is not an entitlement, said an op-ed from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, published in April. It is a privilege extended to those who respect our laws and values, and as Secretary of State, I will never forget that. And he's not wrong. When you have a visa and you overstay it, you've broken the law and you've got to leave. You know, other countries protect their laws. I can't just go to another country and demand that they take care of me, right? Now, I know as U.S. citizens, we do have a little bit more sway, I should say that, in other countries because of our status as Americans. But we cannot just go to another country and demand citizenship and demand, you know what I mean? Like, no, no, it doesn't work like that. They will kick us out. They will detain you. They will throw you in jail. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it the wrong way. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So there have been some people. Ali Zara has elected to self-deport. A federal judge ordered the Trump administration to provide the legal basis for its attempt to deport Muhammad Khalil. Now, this is the gentleman, I want to say he was at Harvard and he had a protest. The problem with the protest is I think it was a situation where they either allegedly occupied a building and, you know, a lot of people are saying, well, he was able to protest and have his freedom of speech. And those things are fine, but it was the occupation, if that happened there. I know that happened at Columbia University. It's so hard to keep up with all these people protesting on campuses. But I think some of his language, it was considered anti-Semitic. And so that's why they were saying, okay, you got to go. But again, you're on a student visa. You're in somebody else's country. That doesn't necessarily mean that all the laws apply to you. They don't. You're protected under the visa, but you're not protected under the United States Constitution. You're not a citizen of the United States. No. And this is where people get it conflated. And this is where, you know, I get a little bit heated. A federal appeals court, but a federal appeals court ordered ICE to return Rumzayak Ozturk to Vermont for hearings. Now, I think this is someone who got sent to El Salvador from Vermont. Yeah, that was one of those. And then the Trump administration invoked the state secrets privilege to avoid handing over documents and the legal battle over Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This is a gentleman from Maryland. Now, see, with this guy, here's the thing with this guy. He came here in 2016 illegally and was deported. Then he came back in 2019, okay? Was put in jail because he was involved in some other illegal activity. And it just caught up to him. So he was already told, you have to leave here because you already came here illegally. So he was already initially deported and then he came back after being deported. So no, why are we fighting over this person? You need to go home. I don't care where you go, but you can't stay here. That's all I'm saying. I don't care where you go. I don't care what you do, but you can't be here. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, that's the Maryland dude. Like I said, some of these people I know, some I don't. There was a 2-year-old. Now this person, this is going to be controversial for some of y'all. The 14th Amendment, and like I said, we're going to get into it more next week, but just to let people understand, the 14th Amendment is for descendants of slaves. Why was it even put in place in the first place? Okay, because when the Emancipation Proclamation happened, all of the descendants from those freed slaves needed protections. So they were like, okay, we need to protect you generationally. So if you were born in the early 1900s and somebody's born in the 2000s in your lineage, they have United States protections. They are automatically citizens of the country. It only applies to the descendants of slaves. It's not for everybody. But then some reason people were like, oh yeah, anybody born on the soil is a citizen. No, they're not. And this 2-year-old is not a citizen. And some of you guys might get upset with me and get angry with me. I don't care. The law is the law. And this is why President Trump brought up the 14th Amendment, which we'll get more into next week of why he even did that. But part of it is because you're not just going to come to America, have a kid, and say, well, my kid's a United States citizen now. You can't tell me what to do. You got to give my kid resources. No, we don't. No, we don't. And trust me, if I was president and I had it my way, I would go back at least 15 years and deport everyone who had a child here illegally, along with their children, and denounce their citizenship. You need to go home. Do not come here illegally. I am really serious about this. Now, a lot of people might get offended by that, and that's okay. But I say it strongly because, we have people out here claiming to love God, claiming to be honest people, but then they want to go and break the law and somehow, make it okay that they're breaking the law in this way. But I'll be honest over here. No, stop that. We are a nation of laws. And there are laws for naturalization. There are laws for people that come over here legally. But when you break the laws no longer can protect you. That's what should be happening. But we've gotten into this situation where people are like, well, we want to write policies and we want to protect people that are here and that are criminals. What? What are we doing? What are we doing? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay. Yeah, but these are some of the people that have been, the removal cases. These are some people that are detained. These are some people that have been released. But this was really a good look to say, who's here, who's not, who should be removed. The 2-year-old, some people might say, oh, that's really harsh. No, it's not harsh. And they should be removed along with their parent if they came over here illegally. Like I said, if they came over here illegally, and more than likely they did, and that's why they were removed. We need to make sure that we are following the law. We absolutely do. And with that, we'll take a short break. And once we return, we're going to have a happy moment. I'm telling you, going into the weekend. I don't want people going into the weekend feeling some kind of way when their mom is trying to have an awesome Mother's Day. And I need you guys to love up on your moms wherever they are. And we'll be right back.
We've unified our end-to-end encrypted services to make them easier to use together, because privacy should be the default for everyone. With the new Proton ecosystem, you can add events to Proton Calendar automatically when you accept an invitation. Easily share large files with a secure Proton Drive link. Send secure Proton Drive links privately with Proton Mail.
Hey, and we're back. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on this wonderful Friday, Mother's Day weekend. My grandmother was here, just really sharing her heart and her love for God and praying with us and just praying for those out there who are disadvantaged and really, wanting to share God's love and the gospel. And I know I can get pretty fiery, and I do. I do. I do. I get into it. So, thank you guys for just, hanging with me and, just letting me be me. I'm grateful to share the news with you from the 7 to 9 hour. And also, just in case anybody is, thinking about what the weather is going to be like this weekend. So the East Coast, they brace for severe weather over the Mother's Day weekend. The eastern seaboard is preparing for heavy rain and potential flash flooding over Mother's Day weekend, with meteorologists advising residents to stay alert and take necessary precautions. So for anybody that's on the East Coast, if you're planning an outdoor event with your mom, you might want to plan something indoors and definitely stay safe with your moms. But one of the things I want to say is I'm grateful for my mother. Hey, Mom, if you're watching. Out there. She's in California, and she's been a great mom. And everybody, being a mom is difficult. I'm a mom. I'm a mother of 3. I also have a grandson, and being a mom can be difficult because you are, constantly giving to everybody else and making sure others are okay. And you have to be selfless. And by the time you realize that you've done all that, you might be in your mid 50s or 60s, and then you get angry because you're like, why did I spend all this time taking care of everybody else and not me? And we're emotional creatures, and just I'm saying that to be like, some of us didn't have a great relationship with our moms growing up, and some of us did. But at the end of the day, when it all shakes out, be grateful for your mom. And for those out there who don't have a mom, or if they've lost their mom, hopefully there's somebody in your life that can give you that love that you need, that's like a mother's love, And for the fur mommies out there that have their pets, you're loving on someone else, maybe even for the aunties out there that didn't have children, but they have, nieces and nephews, happy Mother's Day to you for taking care of those individuals, because they're getting something from you, even though you don't think that they are. They're looking up to you. They're listening to you. They're grateful to see you with all the hugs and love. And especially because you're not their parent, you're the fun parent, you get to have a little bit of extra fun with them that they may not necessarily have at home. So thank you to you guys. And just to the bonus moms out there, thank you for loving up on your babies in the blended family, right? That look to you for different things. So thank you for standing in the gap for them. Thank you for loving them. And I'm praying that, this weekend will be a good weekend. I know I get fiery on this show and I get into it. So when I get on some topics and I'm passionate about it, I know you guys are like, whoa. But, in everything, I just want everybody to be okay at the end of the day. And, as I always try to end our programs, when you see all of these things occurring, look up, for your redemption is drawing near. And with that, definitely make sure you check out the Redemption Party at usaredemptionparty.com. We are looking for individuals to be candidates and servants of the people, not politicians. And we're also looking for members of the party. So check us out at usaredemptionparty.com. And with that, I wish you guys a very blessed weekend. Stay hopeful, stay up. And again, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Be good, guys. See you next week. Okay. Trying to get my cursor. It's somewhere. There we go. Bye, guys.